Hey Corey, where are we?
Oh, there is. Corey, are you good to go?
Okay. Just give him a sec.
1 second.
And then we'll go.
You cheering?
Yep. Get my last words in. Okay. Oh,
Who's cheering?
me. Me.
So I just this is just in a special template.
No, I just remember that. Keep me cool.
Ready. Welcome everyone to this Committee of Whole meeting on Tuesday, November the 13th. We have regrets tonight from Councillor Maloney and Councillor Allen. Any amendments to the agenda? Taking something off? No.
No, just adding a small addition, just the Roma Conference, early bird special.
Okay. Okay, nothing else? Thank you very much. Any disclosure of monetary interests? Seeing none, we have no delegations tonight. I need the adoption of minutes for our Tuesday, October the 9th, Committee of Whole meeting, Monday, October the 15th, Committee of Whole meeting, and Monday, November the 5th, Committee of Whole meeting. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Brennan, and all in favor? Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Oh, sorry.
I was,
Oh, you weren't here for
I wasn't
one
here
of
for November 5th. Does it matter? Oh, okay, I'll second it.
them. Okay. Thank you. CEO and Directors reports. Troy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have quite a few updates tonight, actually. I'd like to share with the committee on regarding the Beckwith Street, the downtown renewal. Our team met with Parsons on November 1st to talk about the project. Right now, we're discussing any data gaps that essentially they're looking to have filled with any field review with our team. We're going through the finer details of the street lighting, the traffic signal designs, and the traffic calming measures. We're looking at the raised intersections that were discussed at Russell and Main as an example, and how they will be constructed, and the details around that. The project is still on track to be ready for tendering in the first week of February if the new council so chooses to proceed. So we're still on track with that project. We're anticipating that we're going to have a public meeting to share information on the project. We're now looking at January, and that's when we would be having a dialogue with the community about how we intend on managing traffic during construction. and also to talk about many of the mitigation efforts that we're going to have built into our contracts to help lessen impacts on local business. So that'll be as part of that, more of an information session than anything. On the grant end of things, we've reached out to our colleagues at MTO to talk about the Connecting Links program, and we've been advised that a program is anticipated to be rolled out under the new Conservative government. The only indication we have at this stage is that it would be essentially the review would be rolled out and it would conclude in March, end of March of next year. So the specific date, normally these grant rounds come out in October of each year, and we of course didn't see one in October. So we don't have any assurance on a rollout date, but we do have assurance that a wrap-up date will be happening end of March of next year. We've been also working closely with the DBA and Chamber staff, and tonight I want to put out a special thank you to Michelle Bately, Cy Wells, and Leanne Jarrett. They've been out handing out surveys to the local businesses. We're putting together a contact list so we know who we'll be talking with during construction. These surveys are also going to help us have a dialogue on discussing items around business hours, water supplies, garbage and recycling, loading needs, those types of things, so we can iron that out on a business-by-business basis for those in the construction zone. So that's the updates on Beckwith Street. The Old Lock Bridge is proceeding on schedule. As we mentioned, it was we anticipated a wrap up on that contract in end of November of this year. Very, very pleased that we're in the final weeks of construction, and we've only spent $7,000 or $7,500 in extras on a $1.6 million contract, so almost unheard of. We are forecasting that the base lift of asphalt hopefully goes down Thursday of this week. We got our fingers crossed. Top lift next Tuesday. So that's the forecast on that project. On other projects, the wastewater treatment plant, another good news story there. The UV equipment upgrade has been completed. It's all in operation right now. That equipment has to go through a 14-day operation trial without any issues or errors before they qualify for substantial completion, and if everything continues to go smoothly, that would be possibly substantially complete as of tomorrow. Again, that's another project. That contract was $671,000, and our extras on that in that project were only $9,000. So another good news story. That's trending to come in considerably under budget. So Pine and Condy Streets. We've been speaking with Thomas Cavanaugh Construction. We're expecting that base lift is going to go down on both streets next week, and we're depending on forecasts, we may be in a scenario we might have to defer top lift to next year. So we're going to see what the weather brings next week, and if need be, we might have to push that ahead to 2019. So again, that's being funded through the OCIF fixed funding. So that's it.
Any questions? No? Thank you, Troy.
Great. Thanks.
Carrie?
Thank you. Just a couple short reports this evening. Just to inform the public and council that the holiday train is coming November 28th. And with that, we do have some road closures this year. Just to remind people that Daniel Street from Elmsley to Victoria is going to be closed. Victoria is going to be closed from Foster to Russell Street East, and Church Street will be closed from Victoria to Winifred Street. The streets will be closed only from 4:30 to around 6:45. That's an approximate timeline. The roads will be barricaded and only access will be granted to residents of that property, and they'll be manned as well. The closest drop-off point for the holiday train will be Russell Street and Victoria Street, and there'll be limited parking at the station, so plan accordingly if you are attending that event. A reminder, too, that the 4th rotating street toll that council permits, applications are due into the town hall by November 30th at 4:30 p.m. If the application is on the town's website, or they can call the deputy clerk or the clerk's office for the application. The municipal grant program is underway for 2019. Again, applications are available on the website or through the clerk's office. They're due November 30th as well. And any questions regarding the applications can be forwarded right through to the clerk's office. And the fourth announcement is regarding the appointments to various boards and committees. With the new council taking their seats December 3rd, we'll also be appointing new members to our boards and committees. Applications are due November 23rd. That'll give staff enough time to view all the applications and make recommendations. So if they're into the clerk's office by November 23rd, we're looking for individuals for all of the boards and committees. It's a 4-year term concurrent with the term of council. It has also been advertised on social media and our websites. So people are allowed to put in applications for 2, and we ask that they put them in order of preference. And we look forward to seeing lots of people on our boards and committees. And then they can be submitted as well, either to myself or Deputy Clerk Nadine Bennett. And that's it.
Any questions for Carrie? No?
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Carrie. Yes, Art.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of updates on projects. The police services roof work is scheduled to be starting at the last week of November, and will take approximately 8 days to complete, but that's a project that was allocated by council earlier last month. The Honeywell project, energy audit project, is also wrapping up at the police services building. They're replacing some of the lights that they needed extra parts for. Once that's complete, that whole project is done. As of January, we will, actually there are 2 outstanding components are the VFDs at the water treatment plant. Those are due in by the beginning of January. So in January, they will start with the M&V, the measurement and verification component of that project. And that's what will happen over the next couple of years, where they're actually going to determine how much energy we're saving through those projects, and then compare that to the projected amounts. So we'll have a report back on that once we have, they start collecting that data. The Rural Recreation Association is having their annual symposium on Thursday at the Memorial Center, and the theme for this year is physical activity and mental health. So I would encourage people to get out there if they can. Registration can happen at the door on Thursday, starting at 8:30. We are in discussions with some community organizations around renovating the basketball courts as well as the tennis courts down at Lower Reach. We're in the process of designing what can happen with that. There is the possibility of some funding coming from the community, and we'll confirm that once we receive it. And Santa Claus Parade, there's lots of interest for the Santa Claus Parade, but I would encourage people to get out and get a float in there as well as marchers, and that happens on December 8th, but you can register for that and get information from Margot at the Community Center.
Any questions? No? Thank you, Art. Malcolm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one item, and that's on the topic of cannabis. So as council will know, we're approaching the 4th week of legalization for recreational purposes, and things seem to be going reasonably well. We haven't had any specific issues that we've had to respond to. But I just want to remind council that the next council, the newly elected council, will need to make a decision on opting out of cannabis retail within the boundaries of the town of Smith Falls. Our understanding is that it's simply an opt-out, and the importance of that is if you do not make a decision, you by default opt in. So a council has to make a decision to opt out. And so some councils are doing that now. We felt it was best for the new council to make that decision, since they will need to live with the consequences of that decision. So you can expect that on the new agenda, the new council agenda on December 12th for discussion. At the same time, we're waiting patiently for the regulations around the Cannabis Act to be released. I understand that might happen later this week. The Cannabis Advisory Committee through AMO rather, we were hoping to have a chance to look at it before it was released, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Once we see it, we can then, from a staff point of view, we'll go through it and analyze it and bring back any decision points that council will need to attend to other than the opt-out decision. And lastly, as council knows, the cannabis regulation is aligned with the new Smoke-Free Ontario Act. So a person can consume cannabis wherever they consume alcohol, or I'm sorry, tobacco. And so in the town of Smith Falls, we do have additional restrictions on smoking tobacco in parks, for instance. So right now we're getting an interpretation as to whether that applies to cannabis as well. There's language in our bylaw that suggests it's only tobacco. So we'll bring that back for discussion at council once we clarify whether we need to amend our existing bylaw for it to include cannabis, but more importantly, whether council wants to do that. So tonight's report is just a heads up on several things coming forward related to cannabis. Some will require decisions of council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cummings?
Yeah, just on the tail of that, I just wanted to report that to council. I was speaking with the deputy chief of police late last week on some matters, and he let me know, 4 weeks in, they've had no calls at all for service in regards to the legalization of cannabis, which is good news and tap wood. But I know that some people had concerns, and they're good concerns, but it's good to report that, again, first month in, we've had no real incidents, and hopefully that'll continue, and public education will really be helpful going forward in this new environment.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
Yep, thanks for the report. I see a couple of my future colleagues in the audience there. There's some news this week in Gananoque, whereby they have made a decision preemptively to treat where you can use the product the same as alcohol, i.e. you cannot use it in public. And I think it's prudent for us in the new council to make these determinations. But I guess my question would be, I guess the new council would have that parameter as well, if so chosen.
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely. That's an interesting policy position that Gananoque took, and I appreciate you raising that. Until the regulations are released, it would be our opinion that it might not be consistent with the new legislation. But I think it does send a pretty clear message about what they hope to invoke as social norms within their boundaries. So the town of Smith Falls would, and I would encourage the new council to have that discussion. But I think once the regulations are released, we'll know how much latitude we have within the legislation to do what's being proposed in Gananoque and other communities. So it's a really preemptive move on their part.
Any other comments? No? Thank you very much. Moving on, we'll go to correspondence items. We have a letter here from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 95 dated October the 31st, 2018. And the topic is exemption from parking fees. Requested action exemption from the parking fees at metered and other municipal parking sites for all vehicles displaying a valid veteran's registration plate. I presume this should be going forward to another committee of whole for discussion. So that will move forward. Thank you. Now we need a motion to move in camera. Councillor Brennan, Councillor Gallipo, all in favor, and we'll move next door. And we'll try not to be too long.
Hello, all of you out there in Facebook land.
You please turn your mic off, Chris.
Why? Should I tell a few jokes, Corey?
Sing.
Sing?
There are 23 people watching.
23. Well, thank you very much for watching, you 23 people. Council should resume any minute now, or any hour now.
Thank you, everyone. We ran out of rum in the other room, so we decided we'd come back here. Not really. We had in-camera issues, and the rising report is we have given staff direction on all the issues that we were dealing with, and we have signed in-camera minutes. Thank you. Now, moving forward, priority issues, employment bylaw report, and this is with Clerk Costello, please.
Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry.
If I might just say something, not to interfere with this, but I neglected to say that at the beginning of this meeting that I had pecuniary interest in a matter in regards to an item that was discussed in camera, because I have a business interest, business relationship, as well as priority issues tonight, G, which is Bellamy Farms. I have a business relationship, so I won't be taking part in that discussion when it comes up.
Thank you very much for that. So noted. Okay, Carrie?
Thank you. I have before you this evening the employment bylaw. This has been a bylaw that we've been working on for many months to bring it up to date. It's been drafted with the help of many hands, CAO Morris, myself, Human Resources Coordinator. It's been vetted through both the non-union group as well as legal counsel as well. And staff have all had opportunity to comment on this draft bylaw as well. As council will recall, a couple months ago, we started bringing policies forward that would be included in this bylaw, fit for duty policy, the employee code of conduct, as well as the staff council relations. A couple of those bring us compliant with Bill 68. The draft you have before you also brings us into compliance with the Employment Standards Act, and in some cases gives a greater benefit to the employees of Smiths Falls under the Employment Standards Act. The bylaw was looked at as a whole. We did focus in on some areas regarding probationary period and orientation, which is a new section in this bylaw, as well as proof of illness, clothing allowance. We've ensured that all the leave provisions are in accordance with the Employment Standards Act. And as well, like I said, we've updated some of the policies and brought them into compliance with Bill 68. So the recommendation being brought forward to all of you is to adopt the policy. That's before you this evening, and it will bring us into compliance with the ESA.
Any questions?
No, just I thought I read it with the detail and thought it was a really good addition, and it was very concise.
Yes. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Award of RFP entrance sign report. This is with Jennifer Miller, please.
Good evening. So the report in front of you today brings forward a staff recommendation to choose the successful proponent for the Town of Smiths Falls entrance sign RFPs. As you know, we've been working to transition all signage over to the new branding and the new logo, and doing that in stages this past year. And so this is the last piece of work to be commissioned with the large entrance signs. So on October 4th, an RFP was issued asking for proposals to remove the existing entry point signage, to design, produce, and install new entrance signs. So proponents were asked to respect the new branding guidelines, and we're encouraged to incorporate historic elements of the town and or highlight the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Rideau Canal in the design. Key landmarks were shared with proponents to highlight the town's heritage. So as you can see in the report in front of you, 3 proposals were received, were reviewed, and have been scored, and staff are recommending that the town proceed with the selection of CGS Signs and Stripes as the successful proponent of RFP 18-ED-01. So the signing quoted in the scoring is for an LED lit sign box design, and you can see that in the images provided. Other options presented by CGS, I just wanted to bring them to your attention, included a drop-through acrylic option. So this provides a more modern approach to the lettering. It'll last longer because it uses less vinyl, and it will be more visible at night. So the proponent recommended this new and more modern option. It comes at an increased cost. I just also wanted to point out that one of the 5 locations has no power, so to ensure that that sign is visible after dark, a solar option can be incorporated into that design, and that's an additional cost as well. So the staff recommendation today is to award RFP 18-ED-01 to CGS Signs and Stripes for LED lit signs at a total contract value of $65,770.54, and an additional $4,070.40 for a solar panel at the Union Street sign is also recommended, for a total project cost of $69,840.94.
Councillor Cummings.
Yeah, I've got no problem supporting staff's recommendation in this matter. I think they've taken into consideration all of the elements that they were looking for to score the. But the only thing I wanted to point out at this point was, we had a rebranding exercise, and I know I had some public discussion or public comments when that was happening, or after that took place, in regards to, the town wasting a bunch of money. But I mean, the new signage that we're putting up with the new logo was signage we were going to put up. It didn't matter. We needed to replace the signage. We're not doing it because it's a new logo. We're doing it because we needed to replace the signs. The logo just happens to be what we're using, but we were always going to put new signs up. So just want to make that point.
Mayor Panko.
Thank you. Jennifer, you talk a little bit more about the drop-through acrylic option and how much of a difference that would make visually and I guess in long-lasting, lower maintenance or...
Yeah, so CGS explained to us that will be more durable in that it uses less layering of the acrylic. And so I'm not a sign expert, but they felt that it would add years to the life of the sign. It'll also add some dimension, which will make it more visible at night. So for, an additional amount of money, and I think that's listed as option 2, the total contract value on that would be $90,252.31.
If we, at this stage, could we make the decision to move ahead with the proponent and then get even more clarity on those 2 options? Or do we have to make a decision on one or the other at this stage?
We could get more information if you had specific questions. I guess my concern is timing.
Yeah.
So we still feel that as long as the weather cooperates, we could get signs in the ground this year. If we delay that decision, then we'd be looking at spring, and just referencing Councillor Cummings' comments, the existing signage is in pretty rough shape.
Just, I guess it's hard to visualize the difference between those 2 options, and but I guess in the long run, or do you have a recommendation of one over the other?
We certainly have the budget to go with the drop-through, and so it's a more modern look, and if we're going to get more lifespan out of it, and we have the budget for it, then that would be the one I would choose.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I think the signs look great, and I agree with what Councillor Cummings says, because I do hear on the street about money spent on the rebranding, but everywhere else I go, it's a big hit. So when I want to compliment you on one of the concerns I had expressed to me was the temporary ones that are up, and people were under the impression that they were what we're using now, and of course there's stuff on the back you can read. And the other concern was the service club, so I'm glad to see that those are included. I'm offline, so I can't read what there was, but there was 2. I think there was a Lions Club and Civitan. I think that there was 2 holes there for it, but they're going to be on there, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's going to be that's really going to be appreciated. The Legion's on there, and I think there's 5. The 5 service clubs. So.
Okay.
6, thank you. So yeah, I'm up for doing it sooner rather than later. Get it in if we can, before the snow flies.
Mayor Panko.
If I may just, yes, I'll support your recommendation. I get the right phrase. The drop-through acrylic option. I think in the long run, if it saves us having to your repairs or maintenance, and it's probably the most cost-effective method over the long run. And are you also looking for configuration when you look at the three potential designs?
I welcome your opinion, but really I'm just looking for your choice of proponent and
Okay,
support on that, and
that's fine then.
which budget item you would
Okay.
choose. Yep.
Thank you.
I'm gonna chime in here because I think sooner rather than later, let's get those done, because I've been looking for paint to go out and paint the backs of those other signs, because they just look disgusting. So, no, I'm very pleased with this, and let's move forward with it, and have something that's gonna last, and stand out nice, and people are gonna say, wow, this is Smith Falls, look at the signage they have, isn't that wonderful? We're happy to be here, so, no, move forward with it. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
You said that there was $20,000 difference between the acrylic and the vinyl. So what part of the sign would be acrylic and what part, like, is the black part going to be acrylic as well, or do you know?
So it would be the top part, the lettering, the logo, the Smith Falls Rise at the Falls that would have the drop through. So that's the lettering would be set back in from the facade. So dropped back in just a little bit.
Instead of just on top?
That's right.
So is that the option everybody's going to go with? Okay. Okay, I haven't got a problem, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward, we have Tim Horton's site plan amendment, and this is with Carl, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm reporting on a fairly minor application, but one that nonetheless does require an agreement and a bylaw that's passed by council. So the Tim Hortons on Lombard Street was approved subject to a site plan agreement back in 1997, which laid out the orientation of the building and covered some details of the overall development. So the proponents have subsequently come back to the town in 2012 to accept to propose an amending bylaw, and that addressed certain aspects of access, landscaping. They were changing some they're changing some of the features of the site, and now they're looking to undertake a few renovations to refresh the facility. A lot of those include interior work that's not subject to a planning process, but they are proposing some facade changes, and those include or primarily include the removal of a lot of the brick face in the front and replaced with a fiber fortified siding, some signage changes, and some overall facade changes. So those are so in order to allow that, technically they would need to file for an amendment to the site plan agreement that they have. So effectively, if approved by council, this would involve replacing the existing schedule that contains the building elevations and replacing it with a new one. So there's no overall changes to the site plan as a whole, no overall changes to the layout of the site. There will be changes to the interior, but that's beyond the scope of what the approval is. So I'll note that the site is on Lombard Street, so the design guidelines and the other provisions that we have a bit of a closer regard for, say in the downtown core, don't apply here. But essentially, what's being proposed is a corporate rebranding exercise. So they're looking to replace, to update according to the corporate look that they prefer now. So the staff recommendation is to pass a bylaw authorizing the site plan amendment and the replacement of the schedule. Any questions from council?
Sounds good. Thank you so much. New parking restrictions, Smith Falls Industrial Park, and this is with Troy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of the report I have before committee tonight is to consider an amendment to the parking bylaw to include new parking restrictions in the Smiths Falls Business Park. Just for a bit of background, obviously, we've had a lot of activity in the industrial park this summer. In particular, we had 156,000 square foot expansion on the Tweed facility in two separate locations. We also saw the repurposing of the former Granville Castings building with 76,000 square feet brought on for the new regional distribution center as well for Canopy Growth. With that, we had a lot of activity going on with contractors and trades migrating to the area to obviously initiate those projects, all at the same time when Tweed was ramping up their local workforce. So over the period of the summer, we saw congestion in the park increasing over time, with a lot of the shoulders of the roads being taken up by parked cars. We've had communications with Tweed throughout the summer. Obviously, with them building parking facilities, we wanted to, logically, those facilities had to be built and brought on stream to provide relief before other changes could be made. Over time, we've seen, again, some negative concerns. Just the impacts of the congestion has affected the movement of commercial vehicles within the park, especially servicing other businesses, impeded sight lines, just emergency services traveling through the corridor obviously doesn't allow the freedom for ambulance to move through there perhaps as swiftly as they could. Some of those concerns, again, have been itemized in the report. We have, again, Tweed has provided for all their parking needs for their staff on site. They've also made arrangements for alternate locations off-street for the contractors. So right now we've come forward with a recommended restriction in the park. And again, we're doing so collaboratively. It's something we've discussed with all the other businesses in the park as well. If you look in the report, it itemizes the restrictions and locations that we're looking at on Air Care, Hershey Drive. We're also looking at a portion of Lawrence Street and Soper Drive as well. And with the onset of winter, we see the need to move forward with those parking restrictions sooner than later, and that's what we're seeking support from the committee for tonight for an amendment to the bylaw to address those changes.
Questions? No, it's a great report. Great report. Thank you very much.
Great.
Okay, moving on. This one is mine, talking about the ATVs. And I have been working really hard with the Cataraqui Trail, and they are in agreement to let ATVs run along the Cataraqui Trail in the portion of that's owned by Smith Falls. And so they're waiting for a response from Smith Falls on this, because they have a gate that they're going to move, so it'll be a definition point as to where the ATVs can run along beside the trail. There's many things happening, and I was going to do this in my report, but I'll do it now. With the Cataraqui Trail, the whole structure of the Cataraqui Trail is changing, and what has been the management board is now going to become Friends of the Cataraqui Trail, and the Cataraqui Trail the management part is going to be taken over by the Conservation Authority. So they're really looking at doing major changes. I think, in my opinion, it's going to be very positive, and it isn't definite yet, but they're also really moving towards having an all-purpose trail. So they will be considering allowing ATVs to run on the Cataraqui Trail. So that could be something that's really interesting and very important for us as we move forward to try to bring all the trails together. And I know Director Manhire has been working on possibilities of building a trailhead, maybe one, maybe two, and this is where we can tell everyone, all the trails that we have. And as Smith Falls is a town that is known for being active and healthy, having these trails all come together and people using it, in my opinion, is a real bonus. And we do have some fantastic trails, and the Cataraqui Trail on this end is beautiful. A lot of people don't understand what we do have. So that's why I brought the ATVs forward, because I'd really like to see a decision made on this. And I know it's maybe has to come back to Committee of Whole again, but let's keep it alive and let's get this worked out so that we can go back to the Cat Trail and say, yes, we're willing to work with you, and then see what we can do with the ATVs right here in Smith Falls. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure. Madam Chair, we've been obviously working with the Trail Association. If we go back initially in March of 2017, when the club brought forward their presentation to council, we had a very high-level picture of what that trail system could look like. And we worked with them through the better part of the summer of again, 2017 to identify what parcels would be impacted, what streets, so we could get at more of a micro level in terms of in town. As everyone's aware, we did circulate that initial trail system that was presented in draft in November of last year. It was at that point in time that it was identified that there was some concerns with the compatibility with the marketed lands in the area of Bellamy Mills subdivision, or sorry, the Bellamy subdivision, I should say. Fast forward to spring of this year, the association adapted the trail, looked at other alternatives, and kind of moved it to Harold Street and Broadview. And again, at the outset of that meeting and that presentation of April this year, we saw again another adjustment, or need to make an adjustment around residential streets. So we're seeing a trend wherever it moves residential, there's the desire to move it. So we're going to be bringing a report forward, I would anticipate, in 6 to 8 weeks' time, that's going to look at it at a holistic level. We've been focusing very much on the details, and I think we have to step back and look at the compatibility with the residential, because in order to cross the town, any trail system would have to come through some residential neighborhood, and we have to look at that. We also have objectives in the official plan around cycling routes, and some of those routes, as an example, will be crossing lines with these trail systems. That's another discussion we have to have that would have to be addressed in that report. And lastly, again, we have to address the point that the ATVs would have to cross what is at present the worst operating intersection in the municipality. Mind you, we're working with Novatech engineers to have that design produced as we speak to upgrade the Lombard-Abbott intersection. But it's a troublesome intersection. We really have to step back and make sure that if we're going to introduce ATVs there, it's not a decision we regret in the end. So we have to look at things very closely.
Just on that, how do snowmobiles cross through the town? Is that a different altogether, or?
My preference is, like, snowmobiles and ATVs are different in one respect. When it comes to snowmobiles in urban areas, there's generally a greater acceptance for, one, those trail systems been around longer historically. Secondly, in the winter months, people generally aren't using their outdoor living areas. Their windows are closed because it's cold. So the impact of those types of uses we'll say they are more broadly accepted. Obviously, ATVs would involve movement of vehicles through town in what would be our peak seasons, when traffic is highest, when we have a lot of visitors. So certainly different conditions. Not to mention a lot more activities on our streets. So, and again, what we have seen in the last several years is ATV clubs are finally getting very organized, we'll say regionally and provincially, and again, that's more of a modern trend as well. So I still see the two uses as being distinctly different, and the town already does have a bylaw present for the snowmobile use. So.
But there should be something that could be worked out here. And I mean, being able to take it along the Cataraqui Trail, that definitely took it off of Harold Street, which was a big concern. So if we can look at trying to do this so it's not in high residential areas, should make it simpler. Anyway, I'll keep asking you. I'm not going to go away.
We are committed within 6 to 8 weeks to.
Okay.
And the trailhead, again, was part of that discussion as well.
Yes.
We felt we wanted that picture, and we have that information as well.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jay?
Yeah, thanks. I think that hearing that the Cataraqui Trail is going to become more multi-use is really, really good news. Open it up to so many more people. And I know that we've discussed the ATV moving, there's a connection they need to make, and it's got to go down Abbott Street somehow. And so, and if they could make that connection, then that opens up for more people using it. So I look forward to that discussion going forward, and a trailhead is a great idea too. But anything that we can do to bring more people here is a good thing. So hopefully we can make compromises. It's super that the concerns raised by the residents on Harold Street can be addressed, because I had some trepidation about that, thinking about what if I lived there, how I'd feel about it. So that's good news. Thank you for that, Councillor Quinn, and all your good work.
Thank you. Just one other thing. They have now opened the OVRT trail that runs from Elmont, Carlton Place and through, and they have a whole set of guidelines as to when ATVs can run, even snowmobiles. They have time frames and speeds and all that kind of thing. Have you had a look at that? Have you seen that?
Well, when we look at the discussion of ATVs, there's two. There's three elements. The first element is, of course, ATVs, allowing ATVs within the urban area. That is the first discussion. The second is the town allowing ATVs on town-managed lands, and that the portion of the Cat Trail example would fit that scenario. And the third scenario is allowing them on public streets, and that's where we have to work with the tools of the Highway Traffic Act. It identifies, there's a schedule regarding ATVs that identifies what the rules essentially are. We can have controls over when they can ride our streets, I believe seasonally. We can dictate times a day that we can accept, dusk to dawn provisions as an example. So part of our report will be informing council on what options they have in regulating in the streets. And logic says whatever we're prepared to consider or discuss in terms of streets would also apply to any trail connections going to and from the streets. So.
I guess the point that I was trying to make was maybe the OVRT would, maybe they've already done it so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it does run through Elmont and does run through Carlton Place, so it is coming in through municipalities. So there could be something within their package that could help put this together here.
Perhaps it'll definitely inform the process for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Terms of reference for committees report. This is with Carl, please.
This report is to present for council's consideration revised terms of reference for the three committees that fall under the jurisdiction of town planning staff. So those are the Planning Advisory Committee, the Municipal Heritage Committee, and the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee. So in preparation for the upcoming term of council and establishing committees, staff in all departments have undertaken reviews of existing terms of reference and just refresh them where needed, outline revisions to ensure that that the committee practices are, or we're up to date with the legislation, and that the terms of reference reflect the practices. So for the most part, the the revisions that are being proposed here are simply housekeeping in nature, not, and formatting, not a significant change. So the CIP committee, of course, that's the committee that's appointed to consider applications made under our community improvement plan, and the committee provides recommendations to council. So the committee clearly spells out a number of staff and other and our partners outside of town hall, such as the chamber and the DBA, who should be on the committee by virtue of their subject matter expertise, as well as outlines a few others. So there's not much in the way of changes proposed there, other than formatting. The Municipal Heritage Committee, of course, we have a wonderful group there that advises on any matters relating to municipal heritage, including the designation of properties, but also just any other anything else that falls within the purview of the Ontario Heritage Act and any other initiatives as directed by council. So the most significant change to that I'm proposing are that that the terms of reference be expanded to include a mandatory a reporting requirement at in each budget cycle. So the committee, along with their request for the annual budget, also include a work plan just outlining some of the goals that the committee is looking to achieve within the next year. So I think bringing that conversation out certainly promotes the work of the Heritage Committee as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with them. The committee that I'm proposing a few more changes to is the Planning Advisory Committee. So as council will recall, there's been some legislative changes in the last few years that under the Planning Act that have required single-tier municipalities to adopt to establish a Planning Advisory Committee. The Act doesn't tell us what the PAC has to do, only that we have to have it. And then municipalities have worked through there, and largely many municipalities have required them to host public meetings, to review on policies as they come. And certainly wisely, we decided to back in the day, we attached the Planning Advisory Committee to the same people as the Committee of Adjustment that's already there to hear minor variances and consents. So this committee would fulfill the same role. It would essentially undertake all public meetings and all consultations required under the Planning Act. So that includes the approval authorities for minor variances, consents, but also zoning amendment applications and subdivision applications, where the PAC would then make a recommendation to council. So council would of course maintain the same approval authority. So one proposed change is to increase the council representation on the committee, and the reason for that is we just want to properly balance it. The fact that the committee that's the Planning Advisory Committee that's hearing from the public, but is council making the decision on the application. So we want to harmonize that role and harmonize that role. And then also another thing that I'm proposing is moving to a monthly schedule. So certainly there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of things that have been coming up, and I think for the ease of scheduling for applicants as well as for staff, moving to a regular monthly schedule I think would be prudent moving forward, and certainly it's my intention to use the Planning Advisory Committee. We have a zoning bylaw review coming up. We have lots of other policy items that are being discussed, and certainly looking to use the Planning Advisory Committee and rely on their expertise and advice as we work through this and report to council. So the three terms of references here there's a few changes from what we had previously. They maintain the structure and format and maintain the reporting relationship requirements that have been always in our terms. So my recommendation to council is that we approve these and adopt these by bylaws. Any questions from council?
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Carl. I've been sitting on the Planning Advisory Committee and the Community Adjustment for the last 8 years, and then the Planning Advisory Committee since its inception, which is fairly recent, a couple of years ago. and I'm going by memory because I can't read it right now, but when I read the report, I noticed there were, I think you said up to 3 council members. Mm-hmm. And then how many laymen or how many citizens? Because right now there's 2 councilors on both of those committees.
Yeah, so up to between 2 and 3 council members and 3 and 4 citizen members is what's proposed in the terms.
Okay, so that would just be for, I mean, the existence of the Committee of Adjustment is maintained.
So the Committee of Adjustment would be folded into the Planning Advisory Committee.
Okay, so it would be all in one?
Yes.
So right now, the Committee of Adjustment members, this was a little bit of an issue a few years ago because some of the members had gone to a conference, and they go almost every year to a conference and they found out that they were the only Committee of Adjustment that they'd met that didn't get a per diem. And so we made that adjustment, and I think it's very modest. I think it's $25, but it's a symbol, that, they're an important body. So I would hope that, I think there's a provision in your terms of reference to provide, I mean, as council members, we didn't get a per diem. That's our job to go to the meetings anyway, but the people that take the time, and often almost every member of the committee, when there's a property in question, go to visit it, and they do they do a lot of research on it. So I would hope that that piece, the per diem, could be rolled into the Planning Advisory Committee. It's not much, but it's something, and like I said, I think they're the only one in Ontario that, Lanark County have it, and I think their per diem's a little more substantial than $25, but, so just a comment.
So through the chair, we have the draft recommendation, the draft terms of references a per diem and leaves that discretion entirely up to council.
Yeah, so I can make that case at the appropriate time. Thanks.
No other questions? Thank you, Carl. But don't go away, because I believe the next one's yours. The Bellamy Farms Phase 1 Registration Report. Sorry.
Madam Chair, I'm just going to excuse myself, as I said earlier.
Yes.
But I just thought it was opportune time, when I read the agenda for tonight, reviewed the agenda on the weekend for tonight, I looked for items that might, newly elected members might be able to comment on. So it's up to council, of course, but I've certainly seen it in the past where items that were of importance to the next council, we would give them the opportunity to speak to council once the subject's been being aired. So I'm not obviously telling you to do that, but I'm just going to give you that opportunity or mention it, is that you could give them the opportunity. And maybe they don't want to mention anything, but we do have 2 newly elected members of council in the audience, and they may want to chime in on that issue. But
thank you. And do we have nodding heads around this table if they care to chime in on the thing?
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, Carl?
Okay.
Bellamy Farms.
Thank you. So this report pertains to a draft subdivision agreement proposed for Bellamy Farms. Certainly, it's the product of years of approval and work by the proponents and town staff over regarding this development. So what's proposed here is a subdivision or a first phase of a subdivision that would contain a total of 64 townhouse units at the end of Ferreira Drive. So that's extending Ferreira Drive, what we have now, and then creating a new cul-de-sac that's called Staples Boulevard, which would in the future is proposed to extend further. So the original draft approval for the subdivision covers 5 phases, and this phase is the first. So it was originally proposed that a single agreement be prepared to implement the various the conditions. However, those conditions were not all fulfilled. So the agreement, the the original agreement was not registered. However, in discussions between the proponent, the acting planner of the day, and the Public Works Director, there was a closer look was held at some of the engineering and the active transportation provisions. So it was agreed that we would proceed and work through the requirements to bring forward the first phase. So that's the first 64 townhomes as part of the subdivision. So as part of the subdivision process and following reviews by the Conservation Authority and the Public Works Department, the following engineered documents have been submitted and approved, and that includes a composite utility plan, landscaping plan, grading and drainage, road design details and profiles, erosion and sediment control plan, and a stormwater management plan and site servicing plan. So those reports have each been reviewed to the satisfaction of the authorities having jurisdiction. So it is, of course, it's a major development that's being proposed here. The townhouses on the north side of Ferreira are proposed as single story, and the remainder as multiple story, all with attached garages. So most of them will, of course, front on this extension of Ferreira Drive, which is designated as a future collector road in the town's official plan, with the beginning of a new street that's also designated as a future collector road on Staples Boulevard. So the hope is in time the future concept would extend up to a widened Broadview Street. So in consultation with staff, the subdivision agreement itself is a significant document, but I'll just highlight a few of the key components in it. So firstly, all development and works, of course, are, as any development, are completed at the proponent's costs. We're looking at 10-meter wide traveled roads for both Ferreira and Staples, and that includes 1.5-meter cycling lanes on both sides of the road with a sidewalk on one side. So as Director Dunlop indicated earlier, our official plan is promoting active transportation, cycling, and alternate methods of transportation other than simply automobile on our major roads. So this is, as this builds out, this is something that we're looking to promote. The base of the road and the first lift of the asphalt would be required prior to any occupancy permit granted. We're looking for paved driveways within a year of the issuance of an occupancy permit. The subdivision agreement also spells out the requirements for where and when sodding and seeding have to occur, typically sodding within the required road allowance, and then provisions for seeding elsewhere. The agreement requires a minimum of 1 tree per lot with additional trees on corner lots. So we're looking at a minimum 50% of native trees and no more than 25% of one species. So that provision is native trees, of course, are generally tolerate our climate better and likely have a greater chance of success. And of course, you don't want all trees of one species in case you have another bug coming through, and we want a little bit of diversity there to allow that. So the exact planting details would be implemented in a site plan approval, which would the applicants would need to file that before they can undertake construction. So solid wooden fencing would be installed along all lot lines abutting the Cataraqui Trail. So as council knows, a portion of the subdivision abuts the trail, and a temporary cul-de-sac at the end of Staples Boulevard would be administered as an easement. So some final details in terms of the design of the Canada Post boxes are being worked out at present. So the agreement that's ready has been the product of a significant amount of dialogue between staff, the proponents, and agencies. So at this point, staff are recommending that we proceed to adopt a bylaw approving the Bellamy Farms subdivision agreement. Any questions from council?
Questions? No? Nodding heads. Oh, in the audience. Wendy?
I sent some questions to the CAO regarding things like affordable housing. I didn't see any provision within the subdivision agreement for any of that. So some of that information I forwarded to the CAO last night. I don't know that I got all the answers to my questions, but I assume they're coming. We all know that affordable housing is a big issue, and I didn't see any mention of that in the subdivision agreement.
I can give you my opinion. Not that my opinion is going to be around much longer, but I still have it. Yes, affordable housing is needed, but I think before you can go to a contractor and start asking them to build affordable housing, you need to be getting into place laws so that landlords have rights, because landlords don't, and it's terrible what happens to landlords and how much money that they spend on fixing places up so they can do their very best to build what people can afford to live in, but landlords also have to have rights. It seems like it's just definitely too one-sided. The other thing is also, if I was a business person and I was building new buildings, I have to be able to make money off of it, or why would I be doing it? I'm in business to make a living. I'm in business to make money, and I wouldn't be putting up new buildings if I couldn't be making money off of it. So there has to be answers to these questions, and there has to be controls put into place, and I do believe that landlords need to have, we need to have the law that says landlords do have rights. I've seen many places that have been literally destroyed by people living in them, and it's terrible. So you want to get affordable housing. I think there's an awful lot of legwork that has to be done here before that can happen. Not saying it can't, but I think there's a lot of legwork. Did you have something you'd like to respond to on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the question that was posed was, were there affordable housing requirements in this particular residential development? And the answer is no. Having said that, recognizing that we want to stay in front of affordable housing, staff are researching different policy tools that council could consider to provide for affordable housing. There's density bonusing. There's a whole, there's a toolbox full of tools that we could look at. So if it's the desire of the new council, we can bring that forward for a policy discussion. But the answer to the question is it wasn't contemplated in this development.
And that is because when this was being looked at, I do believe we didn't have those great concerns at that particular time. So I'm sure that's why it wasn't put in. Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, that's a great question, Councillor-elect Alford. I mean, and I think Councillor Quinn just alluded to it, that this particular project goes back a few years, and the work that his staff have done in consultation with the proponent, with all the stakeholders, the public works, this has been going on for a while, and no, it wasn't talked about then. I know that it has been talked about at the Planning Advisory Committee, and as we go through our zoning amendments, I hope to still be on that, and that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about some more. So,
Carl, you had something to add?
So certainly a great conversation, and certainly within the last couple of years, a few legislative tools have come down to municipalities that we have the option when looking at subdivision development and other multi-residential development to require a certain component of affordable housing, and those tools weren't all available when this subdivision first came forward. But certainly, from a general sense, before those tools were there, we look at is this in terms of affordable housing, we look at the kind of development, and there is a proposed apartment block and townhomes that often are more affordable as entry level dwelling units, in addition to the single family units. So certainly the variety of housing type proposed here, as well as elsewhere in town, would give a bit of that. But certainly as we move forward and have the opportunity to consider future multi-residential units, then that's definitely a good thing for council to consider. Whether and how we want to use the tools that are available, and these are certainly conversations that I'll be having as we move forward with applications.
Thank you. And Mayor Panko.
Yeah, I won't get into it too much other than I agree this, the next council will look at affordable housing and the options that are in place and the ability to attract, enhance, and encourage affordable housing in our community. That's a discussion that will come up. But as for this planned subdivision, I agree. It's basically in place today, and a lot of the work has been completed. I think we're ready to move ahead, and I'll support the recommendation.
Okay. No further questions? Thank you. Moving on, Public Health Unit Levy Appointment Report. This is with CEO Morris, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the recommendation you have in front of you this evening is to take a different approach to apportioning costs that the health unit arrive at in their budget. So there's a bit of nomenclature we need to understand. Obligated is the word that's used in the Act. That means you're a partner, not a voluntary partner. Under the Act, municipalities have to support the health unit budget. So in that sense, we're obligated. So historically, and in the Act as well, it states that the Ontario Population Report is the source of population information. That's been used for years. There's a movement afoot to change that. It's generally recognized that the OPR, it's generated by MPAC. That's a lot of acronyms, but essentially it's not as accurate as another source of population information, which is Stats Canada. There are a lot of reasons. It's in the attachment. I won't go through them, but if you distill it down, Stats Canada is mandatory, MPAC is not. So their response rates to requests for information, if you have under 7 units in your house, residential units, you don't have to report anything. So by nature, it's less accurate than Stats Canada. Our thinking at the time was, well, if it's proportionately inaccurate, then what's the difference? But statistics show that or at least the obligated partners have agreed that let's use the most accurate source of data. So that came before committee last August. At that point, staff said, let's leave it where it is. It seems to work reasonably well. It's proportionate. Some of our partners agreed with that. Since then, they've changed course and have agreed to a change. So essentially, Smith Falls is the last holdout. That in itself is not a reason to change. But if, based on the basis that Stats Canada is more accurate, I think we'd all agree that that's probably the way to go at this point in time. So our recommendation from staff is to agree to that change in approach. What that would mean, and bear in mind the health unit has not approved their budget, but Councillor Gallipo tells me it's underway. So the health unit provided a few scenarios. I'll draw you to Appendix 3 in the report. The highlighted columns are the important ones. Essentially, a change based on what we're recommending would be about a $4,900 a year additional cost to the town of Smith Falls. It goes up slightly from there if the health unit budget were to increase over last year. But it's $100 difference. It's not a lot of money in terms of difference. But what we are talking about is $5,000 that we did not budget last year. We would have to, or this year, that we would have to find in 2019 if council approved the new methodology. So I'll pause at that point and take any questions.
Councillor comments?
Yeah, so no questions at this point, other than just offer my opinion. I mean, historically, we've trusted MPAC numbers more than we did StatsCan, so it's interesting to hear. And also, it appears from the report that actually Bev Disney from MPAC is saying StatsCan is more accurate as well. So I guess that would lead me to believe if she's saying, hey, they've got better information than I've got, then that's probably true. The very notion, I guess, is if that's the fact, then and we're going to have an increase of $5,000, I guess we've been getting off easy for the last few years. But I was cautioned, I felt cautious about changing since we had so many discussions about StatsCan being inaccurate while I've been sitting here for the last 12 years. So, but if everybody's saying that StatsCan is the most accurate, then that makes sense. It makes sense to go with that.
Mayor Panko?
Oh, I agree. It's, I guess, one, find the most accurate method, and it should be fairest to everybody. And again, we go across all of Leonard, Leeds, Grenville. All of our partners have agreed it's a fairest method of determining the appropriate levy. And that meant some faced a higher net cost and others some savings, but in the end, it's doing the right thing. And I think the right thing is employing the Stats Canada model, and so I will support the staff recommendation.
Any other comments? My only comment is, it scares me when we have to come down to who's right and who's wrong. So we have this one group taking stats, and we've been listening to them, like Councillor Cummings says, for the last number of years, and now no, they're not right. StatsCan's right. Like this is. So are we going to, in a couple of years from now, say, oh no, they've been wrong with their stats all along? Anyways, it just kind of leads me to think, my gosh, we better get things organized here. But I do agree, I will support this. If that seems to be the right number, then that's the number that we should be going by. Thank you. One more. Roma Conference. That's with Mayor Panko, please.
Yes, I've attended the Roma Conference a number of years in a row, and it's generally one of the best opportunities we have to meet with provincial ministers and parliamentary assistants and to push forward our agenda and seek support for funding or whatever it is that council decides is the priority of the day. So I fully intend to attend the Roma Conference in January this year, and the deadline for the early bird savings is this week. So I thought if I can get, it would basically be an out of budget expense for 2019 because we have not yet to approve a 2019 budget, but if we can save a little bit of money, I intend to save a little bit of money.
Perfect. Councillor Brennan?
Absolutely, you should go. What's the savings, do you know?
It's only $50.
Oh, okay.
Because
Because if it was more than that, I would say, why don't we reserve 3 spots or something like that? Because I know that, usually some of the new council will want to go. I may want to go this year. And you're right, it's the best one to attend in terms of you're closer to the provincial government and they're focused on rural issues, so. But yep, I'm good for that.
I don't have a problem with that, but I like this idea. Maybe you should be reserving a couple of spots.
I'm sure we can always pull them back if we have to. I'd say at least two or 3, yeah.
Yeah, change names.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So 2 spots?
I'd say minimum, yeah.
Yeah, minimum 2 spots.
Okay.
Perfect, great.
Thank you.
Okay. No standing items. I'd like a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Brennan, all in favor. We are adjourned. We will take a few-minute break and move into council.
So
Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of Smiths Falls Town Council for Tuesday, November 13th. It's a very special evening this evening. We'll talk about that a little more in a few moments. We have a number of items to add to our agenda. We have 7 bylaws and 3 miscellaneous motions for which we'll be adding and dealing with this evening. First, though, I'll move to the podium to make a couple of presentations, or a few. So this is the final meeting of this term of council. We gathered together almost 4 years ago to do our best job to move our community forward, and we all came to this horseshoe weekly and sometimes more frequently than that to do the best we could. And over the last 4 years, it's been very exciting to see our community transform and change and move ahead in so many positive ways. And each and every member of this council can take pride in the fact that they were part of this transformation of our community and part of the success story of Smiths Falls. And so this evening we want to, I guess, pay some recognition and some respect to those who will not be returning on December 3rd. We have 4 outgoing members of council, 3 of them who are here this evening. I'll talk first about Councillor Maloney, who's in Florida enjoying a well-deserved rest. And Councillor Maloney served over the last 4 years. Of course, everyone's aware of that, put his heart and soul into moving this community forward, and we hope that he continues to do so in all the volunteer capacities that he's been doing over the last number of years. And Councillor Gallipo, who also came on 4 years ago and provided a great degree of experience and wisdom to everything we tried to accomplish around here, and many times was able to present a different viewpoint on subjects, and it's those various viewpoints that help us get to the best solution overall in the end. We have Councillor Cummings, who's had 3 terms on council, a total of 12 years. So again, a very commendable commitment, served on a variety of boards and committees over time, Police Service Board, Library Committee, and I guess I won't talk about all the commitments everybody's made, but everyone found their passion, everyone found their purpose and moved forward with that, and your efforts have been very much appreciated. And I'll finish with Councillor Quinn, who 15 years on council, and I think only one person in the room who's put in more effort than that, and that's Mayor Staples, who's here with us tonight, who had 29 years, 20 years as mayor. I will tell you tonight I won't do the same thing as Mayor Staples. So Councillor Quinn, again, you poured your heart and soul into everything you did here. You wore your heart in your sleeve. You brought your passion to the horseshoe every single meeting, and worked tirelessly behind the scenes. And that's what I guess I commend all of you. It's not just what people would see here on a Monday evening. It's the other committee work. It's the homework. It's a preparation. It's dealing with our constituents and doing the best job we all could to move this community forward. So we just want to take a moment this evening to express our gratitude on behalf of the community for everything you've done. And I know that you will continue to do to support the people of Smiths Falls. So I've got a small presentation for each of you. And start with Councillor Gallipo. She doesn't know you're getting them, so take them home and give them.
Thanks a lot.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Cummings. Nice, thank you, and same thing, we won't tell anybody that you got some flowers tonight, if you want to take them home to the right person. And Councillor Quinn. So I'll just read the plaque. The Town of Smiths Falls extends gratitude to Don Quinn in recognition of your outstanding commitment as a councillor from 2003 to 2018, and your selfless dedication to this community will be remembered for years to come. Thank you, Councillor Quinn. You're welcome. I will ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Councilor Cummings?
Yeah, there's, I think, 2 items on tonight's agenda, which is bylaws 7.6, oh no, sorry, 7.7, just one, a bylaw to adopt a subdivision agreement, and I have to care of community interest in this matter since I had a business relationship with the proponent.
Thank you, so duly noted. With no delegations this evening, adoption of minutes? No, no adoption of minutes.
Sorry, yes, there is Monday, November.
Oh, sorry, so do you know who has that? Who has adoption for minutes?
No, I don't think he does have it.
Oh, okay.
If you want to move to the next one.
Okay. I'll move ahead to reports. I'm sure a few people have some things they'd like to share tonight. Let's start with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you. Usually I have all kinds of things to say, and but I think you've kind of really taken my words all the way, and I really appreciate what you've done here this evening. That's wonderful. I'm going to miss being here. I'm going to miss expressing my opinions. I'm going to miss all the looks that I get when they do things like that. But anyways, it's been wonderful, and I've made so many friends and learned so much. I'll tell you, people out in the audience or out in our town, and they think, oh, you know, you just go there and you sit around that horseshoe and you just run the town and there's nothing to it. You have one meeting a week, and they're very, very wrong. And the other thing is they're very wrong about, they do not understand what it takes to run a town, what it takes to operate, how much money it takes. It's like the learning curve was tremendous. I never ever thought in terms of dollars like I did once I started here at council. And it's amazing all the things that I have learned while I've been here. Just like Troy, when he comes and he gives us a report on roads, who would ever think that you have to do all this, or you have to do all that, or you have to do this at the water treatment plant, or, you know, who would ever begin to understand all those things? But once you get here and you get involved with everything and you learn it, and it really is very interesting, and running a town is a very interesting occupation. And so thank you very much for allowing me to be here to learn the way that I have, and now I'll let other people take it over and run the town. Thank you.
Councillor Brennan?
Well, I too have enjoyed my time here. No. I've got some things to say about my fellow councillors, but first of all, John's not here, and he emailed me yesterday and asked me to read something tonight, so I certainly agreed to do that. So I'm going to read John's words, and when you hear them, you'll know it's John. Sorry I'm not here for the last meeting of this council. My campaign promise to my wife was a vacation, win or lose. I cannot say not getting in was a surprise. As I said before, I'm not a politician, and I guess this proved it. I have been part of something for the past 4 years where we saved money, over $500,000 sustainable funds, live streaming, saving service clubs money on licensing, constantly moving things forward. This is not one vision, but a vision of council, and not one person, but 7 can take credit for it. When I saw a need, I also put my time and money where my mouth is. Bringing the largest athletic event to town, the Urban Jungle, not done without Maria and volunteers. The Urban Jungle was the catalyst to fitness equipment in Lower Reach Park. Bringing a charity event to the Healthy Living Festival, Live, Love, Lift. Also, many events and volunteer ventures. Also, for charity and the community. Also, one of the largest events in town that will double, we are hoping this year, the Rito Rendezvous, hopefully bringing 10,000 people into town. Most of my charity and volunteer time will be put towards fallen riders and accident victims through the Pace Law Firm Motorcycle Division, something I have advocated for years. I will miss the community involvement. So a quick rundown, council probably cost me money to be on, especially when we still owned our business. I realize now that the time spent on weekends, evenings, never taking a relaxing vacation, phone glued to my hip, being out in the community, people watching everything you do, including how much food you eat or drink, maybe not the healthiest environment. Everyone telling you how you should act and what you should say. At the end of the day, I would not change one decision or statement. I would also do it again in a heartbeat. I would also not change the council I spent 4 years with. Putting your name on the ballot is not easy. You put yourself out there. Social media has changed things in a good way and a bad way. I'd also like to thank my wife for staying off this and never commenting or getting involved other than to support myself. I wish the new council continued success as the town moves forward. I hope they continue being involved, bringing new things to town. It is more than a Monday night meeting. I would also like to thank my wife Maria, who stood by me every day, never once complaining when we put the community first. Also, the 1,284 people who thought I did a good job. I'm looking forward to my second retirement, spending time with my wife, daughter, grandchildren, family, and friends. That's his letter. I mean, that's John, and he wears his heart in his sleeve. And he was the most unique individual that I think ever sat on this horseshoe, and I thank him for his involvement. And also, I want to go ahead. Yeah. And I want to say to Joe that you are a community builder, literally. You built my house. And for you to take the time when really it's not something that you needed to do, but you felt strongly enough that you put your name on the ballot, and I want to thank you for that. To Chris and to Don, you were two incumbents when Sean and I arrived here, and along with the gentleman in the audience, and I can say you're my mentors, and I think in the next term, I'm probably going to be thinking, I wonder what Chris and Don would say about that. So thanks for everything, and I'm going to miss you, but I know you'll be around, so thank you very much.
I have a sense that Councillor Maloney might be watching right now from Florida. It's our first live streaming move.
Is that okay,
evening,
John?
So if you're there, John, we all wave to him.
Text me now.
Councillor Gallipo.
Okay, well, everybody's pretty well said everything, but I enjoyed my 4 years on council. I enjoyed working with the staff, and I think we did accomplish a lot of things in the last 4 years to the benefit of the voters and taxpayers in Smith Falls. I sat on quite a few committees, and I met a lot of really great people on these committees, and I think I gained some knowledge as well from sitting on some of these committees. And I just would like to thank all the people that did support me for council 4 years ago, and I wish the new mayor and council all the best in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Councillor Cummings.
Well, I think I said most of everything when I announced that I wasn't going to run. It was a rather emotional time for me. I think I made the decision probably 4 years ago that this would have been my last 4 years, but I definitely struggled with it, even right down to the wire, simply because it was such a great experience. And actually, that was a conversation when I made the decision not to run, when I spoke with my wife and I went away for the weekend, and one of the things that came to me was I was describing to her all the things that I loved about it and all the things I'd learned. And she had said to me, well, you know, if you don't run, that means other people get to have that opportunity as well, right? So, you know, that was an important point, and I think, I mean, I was leaning that way anyway, but it really made the decision for me. But like Councillor Quinn and Councillor Gallipo, you know, I learned I can say I learned so much. I mean, I had no idea when I first started this that what it was. And people had said that to me. I think it was Jack Trainer, who was the first counselor I sat beside. He said to me the first night, "It ain't what you think." And, you know, I was petrified for probably 2 years. Nervous as heck. The staff will remember. I couldn't sit still, and I had to have a glass of water in front of me. And I had to write everything I was going to say every night. So, you know, that kind of personal growth, I think I could only have achieved at this level. I've been involved in the community. I've been involved with Kinsman for a couple of decades, library for a long time, Settlers' Days committees, that sort of stuff. But I had no idea that what it would be like to be in this level of community involvement. You know, I think I've had lots of successes while I've been here. Most of them have been getting to know people in the community, making sure I understand what Smiths Falls is all about, because I wasn't from here. And I learned about the community and about the people sitting here because the minute they gave me their confidence, I felt absolutely motivated to understand each and every person that phoned me and talked to me and sympathize with their position or champion their position or try to explain more details so they would understand the position of council. You know, I thought when I joined council, I didn't join it because I was interested in politics. I joined it because I was interested in Smiths Falls and the community. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I knew I couldn't stay, because I'm certainly, as I said when I announced I wasn't going to run, I'm not a politician. And it was extremely hard most nights sitting here, struggling with different things, and, you know, trying not to upset people, trying to find the best course of action plot the best course for the community, because we were going through so much change. And no one can deny that this community in the last decade hasn't gone through substantial change. So to be at the front of it, making decisions, made it that much more scary and important. So I'd like to finish by saying that I learned something from everybody I sat on council with. Every member of staff that I've dealt with, which has been dozens in the, 147 staff plus all the ones that have come and gone. The press. I was thinking today about, as I was watching the press at the press table, thinking about all the different faces that have come and gone from there, and I know I've learned quite a bit from them. Sometimes I learned what I said at the night before when they wrote the story. Did I say that? But I learned a lot. But I think the most I learned was from my council colleagues. So there isn't a single person that sat at this horseshoe with me in the last 12 years that I didn't learn something from. And I want to recognize that, you know, I found a mentor in Mayor Staples, and I think he gave me the courage to carry on when I was feeling low because it was so much pressure. So I want to thank him. Anyway, said I wasn't going to say this because I didn't want to get emotional again, but anyway, I don't think I can express myself any differently than that it's been an absolute pleasure to serve Smiths Falls, and I've been humbled by it for every day of the last 12 years.
Thanks to all of you. So we'll go back to adoption of minutes, which is back to Councillor Cummings, please.
All right, I need someone to second it. Would you second it with me, Councillor Quinn? So I'll move myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that the minutes of the November 5th. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Moved myself, second by Councillor Quinn, that the minutes of the November 5th, 2018 council meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Cummings, second by Councillor Quinn, that the minutes of the November 5th, 2018 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. On to bylaws. Our first bylaw is with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9990-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Planning Advisory Committee be now read be read a first time and taken as read a second time. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9990-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Planning Advisory Committee be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Quinn?
This was discussed earlier at a committee of whole meeting, and it's just to make things simpler so that people sitting in these positions will understand what is expected of them and if this really is the right place for them to be. So it's just going to simplify the whole process for us.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Planning Advisory Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9990-2018.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9990-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Planning Advisory Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9990-2018. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Galpo, I believe the next bylaw.
Yes, bylaw number 9991-2018, first and second reading, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Municipal Heritage Committee be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Galpo, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9991-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Municipal Heritage Committee be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Galpo?
Yeah, this bylaw is just to help clarify what the responsibilities of the committee are and to give everybody a clear idea what they need to do.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Bylaw 9991-2018, third reading. That a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Municipal Heritage Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 991-2018.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Galpo, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9991-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Municipal Heritage Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9991-2018. All in favor? Carried. On to Councillor Brennan for the next bylaw.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Quinn. Bylaw 9992-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Like the first two preceding bylaws, this is setting out terms of reference for the Community Plan and Evaluation Committee and membership and their responsibilities and that sort of thing. And I want to thank, he's gone now, but Carl, for putting that together and adding some clarity to these committees.
Great. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9992-2018.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Quinn. Bylaw 9992-2018, that a bylaw to adopt the terms of reference for the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9992-2018. All in favor? Carried. And Councillor Cummings, you have the next bylaw.
Yes, moved myself, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to adopt policies respecting employment in the town of Smiths Falls be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Cummings, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9993-2018, the bylaw to adopt policies respecting employment with the town of Smiths Falls be received for the first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Cummings?
Yes, Your Worship, it's housekeeping item. Staff have prepared some updates for our employment bylaw, and it was tabled at committee, and we found it concise, and so we're adopting it tonight.
Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to adopt policies respecting employment with the town of Smiths Falls be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9993-2018.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Cummings, second by Councillor Brennan, bylaw 9993-2018, that a bylaw to adopt policies respecting employment with the town of Smiths Falls be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9993-2018. All in favor? Carried. Back to Councillor Brennan for our next bylaw.
Yeah. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to amend parking bylaw 7252/1997 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Quinn, bylaw 9994-2018, that a bylaw to amend parking bylaw 7252-1997 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Director Dunlop explained this to us. As we all know, the activity in Hershey Drive area has increased exponentially, and this is going to address some of the parking issues, especially as we get towards the winter control season, and help other commercial vehicles move through there more smoothly. So that's what that is.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to amend parking bylaw 7252/1997 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9994/2018.
Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Quinn, bylaw 9994-2018, the bylaw to amend parking bylaw 7252-1997 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9994-2018. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Quinn, you have the next bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Brennan. Bylaw 9995-2018, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 7254-97, being a bylaw to authorize execution of a site plan control agreement respecting 111 Lombard Street be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Brennan, bylaw 9995-2018, the bylaw to amend bylaw 7254-97, being a bylaw to authorize execution of a site plan control agreement respecting 111 Lombard Street be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Quinn?
This is just approving they're going to be doing some work at that particular location, and some of it is facade work and in the area of the property, so it's just moving forward with that.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 7254-97, being a bylaw to authorize execution of a site plan control agreement respecting 111 Lombard Street, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9995-2018.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Brennan, bylaw 9995-2018, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 7254-97, being a bylaw to authorize execution of a site plan control agreement respecting 111 Lombard Street, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9995-2018. All in favor? Carried. And our final bylaw is with Councillor Gallipo, please.
Yes, bylaw 9996-2018, first and second reading. That a bylaw to authorize execution of a subdivision agreement with 1686994 Ontario Limited be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gallipo, second by Councillor Brennan, bylaw 9996-2018, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a subdivision agreement with 1686994 Ontario Limited be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Gallipo?
Yes, with this agreement, it allows the lumber company to move ahead with Phase 1 and the Bellamy Farm.
Third reading, please.
Third reading. Bylaw 9996, 2018, third reading. That a bylaw to authorize execution of a subdivision agreement with 1686994 Ontario Limited be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9996, 2018.
Councillor Brown, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that that particular phase includes a street named Staples Boulevard.
Who was that named after?
The store that would
Moved by Councillor Gallipo, second by Councillor Brannan, bylaw 9996-2018, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a subdivision agreement with 1686994 Ontario Limited be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 9996-2018. All in favor? Carried. That's it for our bylaws. We have a couple of miscellaneous motions. The first is with Councillor Brennan, please.
Mayor Pfeiffer?
Oh, yes, Councillor Gallipo?
I may have a conflict of interest with this motion, so I'll refrain from voting on it.
Oh, regarding, okay. So noted. Item 8.1. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Brennan.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls award the request for proposal 18 ED01 to CGS Signs and Stripes Incorporated in the amount of $90,252.31 for drop-through acrylic signs with solar for Union Street, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract with CGS Signs and Stripes, Inc.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Quinn. Award a request for proposal entrance signs. The Council of the Corporation of Town of Smith Falls award the request for proposal 18-ED-01 to CGS Signs and Stripes, Inc. in the amount of $90,252.31. And for the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract with CGS Signs and Stripes. This is for the drop-through acrylic signs with solar for Union Street. Yes, discussion?
Just a clarification, that is for the signs at every entry point in the town, not just Union Street.
Yes.
Okay, just so we know. And we discussed that, and our economic development officer, Jennifer, told us, and I want to mention that they're going to include the 6 service clubs in Smith Falls, and they look good. Great.
I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Cummings has the next motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls supports the use of Statistics Canada population data to apportion the levy between obligated partner municipalities beginning January 1st, 2019.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Cummings?
Yes, so we are obligated under the Act to pay a portion for the health unit, and deciding on or calculating what that is has previously been based on data that we've received from MPAC, but after some changes, it's been reported that it's more accurate to calculate the amount based on statistical information from Stats Canada as opposed to MPAC. So Council has agreed to that, and every other municipality that serves the health unit serves has also agreed to that, and so this resolution just clarifies the new statistical data to calculate our apportionment.
Perfect. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Cummings, second by Councillor Quinn. Public Health Unit levy apportionment. The Council of the Corporation of Town of Smiths Falls supports the use of Statistics Canada population data to apportion the levy between obligated, in brackets, partner municipalities beginning January 1st, 2019. All in favor? Carried. And our final motion is with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Brennan. Pre-budget approval for Roma, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls provide 2019 pre-budget approval to allow the Deputy Clerk to submit 2 early bird registrations to the Roma Conference.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Quinn?
This is, we know that Roma is a great conference to go to. We know there'll be at least 2 people going, and this just gets us in the early bird registration where we save a little bit of money.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Brennan. Pre-budget approval, Roma. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls provide 2019 pre-budget approval to allow the Deputy Clerk to submit 2 early bird registrations to the Roma Conference. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any inquiries or announcements beyond what's been stated? No. Motion for adjournment is with Councillor Cummings, but a recorded vote has been requested.
Before I do that, though, I just wanted to...
You're still thinking?
Yeah, no, I realize, I didn't really write anything down before I made my final speech at council. And one of the things I forgot, which is, probably the most important thing, was I forgot to thank my wife. So I wanted to thank my wife publicly. I've done it several times over the last decade, or 12 years. But without her support, undying support, to bring me down when I came home and started yelling about something that had happened on the night, she would talk me down and bring me back up. So I want to thank her publicly for that, and feel really ashamed that I didn't do that. John Maloney did it twice in his speech. Anyway, so moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn. Did you want to say something, Joe, before I?
Oh, but turn your mic on. You might be watching.
I was giving you a shot.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I thought of it earlier, and then I shortened my speech up, and I thought of it after I quit that I should have said something. But anyhow, yeah, my wife's been a great support the whole time I've been on council, and even with my other run for mayor, she was a great support to me. So I'll have to thank her for that. Thank you.
Okay, so moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 8:09 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Moved by Councillor Cummings, second by Councillor Quinn. Adjournment to this council, which is the final council meeting for this term of council from 2014 to tonight. Adjourns proceedings at 8:09 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. A recorded vote has been requested.
With respect to the adjournment of tonight's meeting, please state yea or nay. We have Councillor Allen is absent. Councillor Brennan?
Yay.
Councillor Cummings?
Hooray.
Councillor Gallipo?
Yay.
Councillor Maloney is absent. Councillor Quinn?
Yay.
And Mayor Panko?
Yay.
Carried.
That's it, folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.